It is Sunday, May 17th, 2026, and this is The High Road. I'm Buck Reynolds, and I'm just here to make sure the silicon doesn't take over the steering wheel.
I'm Elena Rossi.
This is Dan Miller.
And I'm Jules Sterling. We have a great show for you today.
Well, we've got a busy lineup for a Sunday morning. Hope you all had a better Saturday than I did. I spent 4 hours trying to get a vintage CB to stop humming. Yesterday on the show, we talked about that Volvo DSV autonomous run on I-45, which, I'm still not convinced is ready for prime time. And we went deep on that whole classification debt thing with AI data. We even looked at Hyundai's hydrogen push in Canada.
It was a high-scoring game yesterday, Buck. But today we're talking about the grind. Specifically, how much it costs you every time you pull into a scale house. And we're looking at Mexico solidifying that #1 spot in trade. It's like they've got the home field advantage now. Plus a little LiDAR consolidation that's basically a fire sale for high-tech sensors.
Actually, Dan, it's about risk. It's always about risk. Whether it's a bypass or a border crossing, if the process isn't predictable, the indemnity costs start climbing.
It's all about the relationships and the flow, guys, right? Let's get into the mile marker index.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Here's the deal. PrePass just put out this mile marker 2026 index. And the thing is, the industry is finally admitting that speed isn't the king anymore. It's all about consistency. My thing is, if you're an owner-operator, you used to think a bypass just saved you 3 minutes of idling. But the data from 1.6 billion events says we're looking at something different now.
$10.65 in fuel, time, and wear. But Jules, that doesn't even account for the safety scores. The report mentions that for enterprise fleets, the real value is avoiding the HOS clock friction. You pull into a weigh station, and you're basically inviting a random inspection that can blow your whole delivery window.
Well, and they just added 116 new sites. Rhode Island, Minnesota, PA, and Mass. I used to dread the Northeast Corridor. It was just one long stop-and-go nightmare between D.C. and Boston.
It was like being stuck in prevent defense for 500 miles. But now, with these new sites in Michigan and South Carolina too, you've got these green light corridors. If you're a regional hauler, your predictability just went through the roof.
If you have the data to back it up. Actually, PrePass is expanding because they have the authenticated bypass tech. But as a risk manager, my thing is, if your safety score isn't pristine, that transponder is just a paperweight. You see, the system only rewards the ones who follow the logistics Bible of compliance.
It's better than the old days. I remember sitting in line at the scale in Wyoming during a ground blizzard, just praying the guy in the booth wasn't having a bad day. Now, it's all silicon and sensors. But $10 a pop? If you're doing 500 bypasses a year, that's $5,000 straight to the bottom line.
That's a star player's salary, Buck. Or, a lot of diesel at today's prices.
It also helps with driver retention, right? Nobody wants to sit in a line. It makes the drivers feel like they're actually moving, which is sort of the whole point of the job. It builds that rapport between the fleet manager and the cab.
True, but let's look at where they're moving. The new BTS data just hit, and Mexico isn't just winning, they're dominating. March 2026 trade hit $84 billion.
Yeah, but the infrastructure is screaming. I was reading that, according to Mexico News Daily, we've got this USMCA deadlock. Marcelo Ebrard is basically saying the review in July is going to be a prolonged negotiation. It could last years.
Well, it's complicated, okay? Because the U.S. is pushing those rules of origin really hard. They want to make sure China isn't just using Mexico as a backdoor for components. It makes my job as an account manager a nightmare when we can't tell a VP of supply chain if their tariff rate is going to stay the same for 6 months.
Actually, the Plan Mexico decree that President Sheinbaum signed might help. It's this single window for foreign trade. They're trying to consolidate 132 different federal procedures into one digital platform.
One-stop shopping. It's like a hurry-up offense for bureaucracy.
We've heard that before, Dan. I mean, you can have all the single windows you want, but if the bridge at Laredo has an 18-hour wait, you're still dead in the water. I've lived that. It doesn't matter how much code you write if the physical asphalt is clogged.
Which is why the rail war is getting so intense. CSX and CPKC just launched that Southeast Mexico Express. They're trying to move the freight from highway to hull, or highway to rail, specifically to bypass those border bottlenecks.
And it's working. Sort of. We're seeing more clients asking for intermodal options out of the Bajío region. It's more secure, too. You know, we've talked about cargo theft before, and the rail is just... it's a harder target than a lone truck in a dark lot.
Hey, before we move on to this LiDAR fire sale, a quick note from our sponsor. Strategic logistics requires world-class engineering. And let me tell you, this show wouldn't be on the air without it. We are powered by the stack developed by Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media. He's the architect behind the code that keeps us running. If you want to support the man behind the machine, visit our Patreon at patreon.com/neuralnetworkmedia. You can get a free trial and get your hands on our daily briefing PDF. It's the playbook you need to stay ahead of the game.
All right, so MicroVision just bought Luminar's assets. I remember when Luminar was the $10 billion golden child of the tech world. Now, here's the deal. MicroVision picked up the pieces for $33 million? I mean, I've seen used fleet sales that went for more than that.
It's a liquidation price for a consolidation era, Buck. Luminar's Chapter 11 was inevitable once the R&D burn exceeded the actual market adoption. But, for carriers, this is actually good news.
Why is that? I mean, isn't a bankruptcy usually a bad sign for the tech?
Not in this case. MicroVision absorbed the Iris and Halo sensor platforms. Specifically, the Iris sensor can see out to 250 meters. That's over 800 feet, even in total darkness or heavy rain.
800 feet? I mean, a Class 8 at 65 miles an hour needs about 500 feet to stop. If you're using standard headlamps, you only see maybe 200 feet. So, okay, the math works on paper.
The math is a touchdown, Buck. Look, they showed off this tri-LiDAR setup at the ACT Expo in Vegas. It's about solving the stopping distance problem. If the truck's eyes can see 3 times further than the headlights, the computer has enough time to react before the driver even knows there's a stalled car in the lane.
If the sensors don't get covered in road salt or bugs. My thing is, these silicon drivers don't have a windshield wiper for their ego. I mean, what happens when a bird hits the halo sensor at 70?
Well, that's why they have the redundancy, right? And MicroVision is keeping 85 of those elite engineers. They're moving this away from R&D fantasy and toward actual production-scale deployment.
Exactly. My interest is in the indemnity shield. If a carrier can prove they had a 360-degree LiDAR curtain that documented exactly why an emergency brake was applied, the insurance litigation changes forever. We move from he said, she said to hard data points.
It's like having a high-def replay on every single play of the game. You can't argue with the camera, or the laser in this case. Now it's time for the week ahead, our Sunday segment where we look at the strategic chess moves for the upcoming week of May 18th.
And by chess moves, you mean things that will keep me awake at night?
Exactly. Look, first thing on the board for Monday and Tuesday is the fallout from the SCOTUS ruling on Montgomery versus Carib Transport. The preemption shield is officially dead, folks.
That's the broker liability case, right?
Bingo. A 9-0 unanimous decision. The Supreme Court just told every freight broker in the country that they can be sued for negligent selection in state courts. The FAAA defense is gone. Next week, every brokerage's legal department is going to be scrambling to update their vetting protocols. If you aren't using an AI-driven identity verification platform by Friday, you're a sitting duck.
I told you, the era of vetting by phone is over. This is going to drive a massive CapEx shift. Brokers are going to have to pay for an intelligence layer just to survive a lawsuit.
Move number 2, Wednesday, May 20th. We've got the EIA Petroleum Status Report. Diesel's sitting at a plateau of about $5.40 a gallon, which is a 50% surge over last year. If Wednesday's report shows another inventory draw, we're going to see a wave of small fleets just park their trucks. They can't absorb that kind of fuel shock while contract rates are still in transition.
$5.40. I mean, that's just painful. You can't hammer down when every mile is costing you a steak dinner.
So FedEx is finally letting their most profitable unit fly solo?
Actually, they're using it to clear the books. FedEx Freight has to pay a $4.1 billion dividend back to the parent company to finalize the deal. The strategic implication is that FDXF is going to be much more aggressive in the LTL market once they aren't carrying the weight of the express integration.
It's a breakout play. I'm watching the LTL rates next week. If FedEx Freight starts getting hungry for market share to prove their value as a standalone, expect a price war.
Just what we need. More market disruption while we're trying to figure out if we can afford to fill the tanks.
Hey, and one more for the watch list. We have the Target earnings call on Wednesday. If Target says their inventory levels are still high, it means the summer shopping surge is a bust. But if they are empty, get ready for a big rush for flatbeds and dry vans. That is our look at the week ahead. It is all about the cycle of restoring margins, guys.
That's all for today's High Road. I mean, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that $10.65. Every time you skip a scale, you're literally buying yourself a lunch. Just, keep it predictable out there.
Stay compliant.
Keep moving.
Be safe, everyone.
Keep the shiny side up.